for Greenovate Europe. We're a network of organizations supporting sustainable innovation. So today's webinar has been arranged as part of a larger series co-organized by 4 projects: Scalaba, Hoop, Value Waste and Waste Hub. All these projects are funded by the EU's Research and Innovation Programme Horizon 2020, and we're also a partner event of the European Union Green Week. So the series is gathering technical experts and cities and regions from around Europe to discuss some of the main issues related to the creation of urban bioeconomies in Europe. So in total, we have 6 webinars in the months of May and June, covering the topics that you can see on the screen. So more details on all the speakers and instructions to register for all of those webinars can be found on the Hoop website. We'll add the link in the chat now. So before we get started today, I'll just mention a few rules. So this webinar is being recorded. Actually, it's being live streamed also on YouTube as I speak. So if you have colleagues or friends, relatives who didn't manage to register, they can actually follow us also on YouTube. We'll put the link for that in the chat. Otherwise, so attendees are in listen-only mode, but we really want to hear from you and hear your questions. So you can put those in the Q&A box that you can see in your Zoom module. So we have quite a lot of time set aside for discussion, so don't be shy with your questions. So with that, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, Miguel Ángel. So Miguel Ángel is project specialist at ITENE. They're an R&D technological center specializing in packaging, logistics, and transport. So that's all from me. So Miguel Ángel, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, James. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen now. So that... Okay. So let's start. Well, I will start with an introduction in biowaste collection strategies, and then I will also moderate this event and introduce the other partners speaking also today. It's a pleasure to host this first webinar on a series of several ones on biowaste. And this will be a bit the contents and the storyline I will treat for this introduction. In general terms, as you may all know, if you are familiar with biowaste generation, we have big issues in terms of biowaste production. Since on average, a European citizen produces more or less 200 kilos of biowaste. Nowadays, the general infrastructure doesn't allow to manage all this waste, and that's why a high percentage of this biowaste end up being landfilled or incinerated, with corresponding issues on environmental terms, on CO2 footprint emissions, and many other also environmental categories. And also, it's important to highlight the high cost on management that this implies, and that's why it's so important to find new strategies and new alternatives in terms of technology to produce. In a first step, to collect, and then to be able to valorize and produce high value-added products to compensate this high cost in management. So within the European framework, we find supportive legislation that should boost all these new concepts, strategies, and many projects to develop proper biowaste collection strategies. Just to highlight some of these main points in European legislation and guidelines, we'd say that the objectives in Europe is to reduce landfilling down to 10% of the separate collection. Also, that it will be compulsory to collect biowaste separately, or at least to ensure the recycling at source from 2023 onwards. And we also found really ambitious objectives in terms of recycling municipal waste, as this 65% of municipal waste by 2035. There are also many policies that aim to increase the bio-waste capture, not only so in the municipal waste management, and that's why it's so important to find ways to selectively collect this waste to avoid cross-contamination, and to, let's say, close this loop on the collection of bio-waste. There is also important regulations on fertilizing strategies, and also in many other applications, with the aim to decrease the European dependency on several minerals, fertilizer, and also to build a circular economy within the European context. Our today's topic focuses on bio-waste collection, and that's why we are addressing some specific challenges on bio-waste. To start, as bio-waste is starting being collected separately, also the amounts being collected are increasingly significantly, and that's why there's a need of more infrastructure and more optimized infrastructure to be able to gather and to manage all the waste that we will be able to treat within the next years. Also, it's important to understand that this type of bio-waste, it's new. It consists on new waste streams, and this sometimes is translated also in low qualities. And so that's why it's so important to improve and to develop new technologies and new strategies to improve this quality. Also playing with proportion on bio-waste, analyzing the qualities on the different actors in this bio-waste production, from household, Oreca, and also other sources as mowing and planning, for example, to solve this heterogeneity on bio-waste mix. And also analyzing all the parameters in this collection, for example, the climate parameters and also the operativity on the collection, so that we can collect bio-waste with the best quality to produce high value added products. So the idea is to improve our bio-waste collection system to produce high value added products, in which we could have biopesticides, new bio-based materials, and many other applications that I'm sure that in all these webinar series will be explained and developed. So let's start from the beginning. I will use some of the work that we've done in a project coordinated by ITENE called Excalibur, that has many contact with all the other projects that we'll present today, and also in further webinars, focusing on best practices for selective collection in any bio-waste source material, also to develop advanced methods for transport and logistics of urban bio-waste, best practices also for desorting and pretreatment of this bio-waste, and characterizing the different bio-waste fractions to obtain the best quality possible and produce high value-added products. So in this Excalibur project that I mentioned, we've worked in the collection of bio-waste in 3 main pilots, in Albano, in the region of Lazio, in Italy, in Madrid, in Spain, and in Kozani, in Greece. And also we have with us another city called Lund in Sweden, which is the best performing territory, and that it's vital for the project in terms of communication between all the best practices and all these strategies that are also being performed in other parts of Europe, to learn and to exchange many knowledge between us. So within this project, and we've analyzed the state of the art of many collection strategies within Europe and also the rest of the world, and we've developed different best practices fact sheets, and all of these have a structure in which we address a main challenge we number the steps that any interested stakeholder should follow to implement these best practices and the benefits from it. And also, so here we have a little example on how this would work. So we have certain challenges or limitations in bio-waste collection. It could be the ones highlighted here, for example, and a really big expenses, a big cost and management due to transport of waste. And so in these best practices, certain solutions to solve this are raised up, as for example, using filling level sensors, building a more smart infrastructure in your city, and also other best practices related to the quality of the waste, and so on. Within Excalibur project, we've also worked with the pilots to integrate advanced technologies based on monitoring of the quality of the bio-waste in the containers, also measuring the container state to optimize the transport and the logistics in this waste, and also other techniques based on artificial vision techniques on the own management plant. So these pilot study cases have allowed us to, at the beginning, well, study all the different techniques and most advanced technologies that can be used in the bio-waste sector, and to apply them in this pilot city, also feeding again these best practices, learning from our pilots and defining all these practices in bio-waste, which at the same time are being integrated on a software platform in the project, and can be open source and shared with bio-waste stakeholders, so that we will have a holistic approach and a communicative communication between sectors. We really would like to engage you to participate with us, to let us know what you think on all these practices that we are undertaking in several pilots, and also to promote the replicability in certain European pilots and cities, and to set, let's say, the best performances in bio-waste collection. We have, as I said, this Excalibur stakeholder platform, but we have also many other projects and initiatives in bio-waste that we would like to share with you. And I finish with my presentation. To follow a bit this storyline, I will give the word to our colleagues from Lund as the best performance territory in the Excalibur project. So we have with us Markus Paulsson, who will talk a bit the study case in Lund, and will give his vision on collection strategies. So Markus, if you want to start, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me and for having me here. I will start to share my screen. Yes, I'm representing the city of Lund, and I also have with me my colleague Miguel, who will help me answer some more tricky questions that I hope will come. And Lund is, I'll just give you an overview of Lund first, so you know what we're talking about. Lund is the oldest city in Sweden. It has roughly 125,000 inhabitants in the whole municipality, and we have a very fast growing population. It has actually been growing continuously for at least the latest 100 years, probably more. It's mostly well known for its university, which is the largest in Scandinavia, with more than 40,000, I think it's 46,000 students, something like that. And we are also very ambitious when concerning our environmental goals. We have a long-standing target that we should decrease the carbon emissions from the the whole geographical area or from 1990 to 2020 by 50%. And we reached this goal in 2 years early, actually. So now we're striving for the next goal to reach net zero by 2030. It's very ambitious. We will need to not only decrease our emissions further, but we also need to get some negative emission to compensate for the last tons that are very difficult to reduce. But that's another project that I'm working on. Lund is situated in the very south of Sweden. As you can see, it's closer to Berlin than to Stockholm. Also it's very close to Copenhagen. So Copenhagen is the airport we are using. As I said, the university plays a big role in the city. So it has also sprung a lot of high-tech industries or companies from the university. So those are the main sectors for the city. And you also see the cathedral on the key image, and that was the starting point for the city, actually. But we should focus more on waste today, not so much on cities. In Lund, we have a cleansing department that was founded more than 100 years ago. It's a department within the city, so we keep, it's not private contractors. We are doing this on our own business. And it's financed by rates that we collect from the households and from the businesses. We also invented the Quattro Select bin system that I will show you very soon. We are now completely fossil-free in the transportation of the waste system, but we are not treating the waste locally. It's transported to another treatment facility in the neighboring city of Malmö. I will also talk more about this very soon. The bin selection, the Quattro bin selection system was developed in Lund and is now used in around 25% of the cities in Sweden. So it's spreading. We're very proud of that. It contains of bins that have 4 compartments within them. And we have 2 bins, so in total there are 8 fractions for every household where they can put their waste. And it's the waste that you use the most. It's food waste, residual waste, cardboard, paper, plastic, metal, colored glass, and clear glass. That can be source separated at your home and then disposed in the bin very close to your house. We also supply paper bags for the food waste. So we don't want plastics in the food waste. We only want paper bags because it's gradable in the treatment that comes later. And we supply it, so it's included in the fee. And we collect the first bin with the one including food waste every 2nd week, and the second bin with the more every 4th week. The waste that can be stored longer time is in bin number 2. And we also have a collection truck with 4 compartments. So it's emptied in one sweep, so to speak. So the personnel only take the bin, roll it out to the truck, and then it's emptied automatically into the truck. There is actually a film concerning this on the Scalibur website that you could look at if you are interested. We started with this as a pilot project. It's now 20 years ago, but it took us almost 10 years to implement it. First with just some tests, and then some residential areas, and now since 10 years we have it in the whole municipality. So there are, I think there are many advantages with this system. It is easier for the residents to source separate the waste, and we get good separation rates. But it's not the only system we have. We have other, actually more systems. And I forgot one thing. This system is still voluntary because we cannot force the customers to use this. But the fees are in a way that makes people choosing it anyway. So it's more or less, if you don't have the space for 2 bins, then you have another system. So 80% use it today. And this system is for single-family houses. And for multi-family houses, we have different systems. We have these more common single bins of various sizes in multi-family houses. And more and more in all new areas, we build these underground waste systems. Today with 8 fractions, and in a very new neighborhood, we are now building a vacuum system with 4 fractions collected. That is to reduce the amount of traffic within the neighborhoods. And for everyone, all the citizens, we have recycling centrals. We have 4 of them, 2 in our own operation and 2 in the operation of CISA, the company that we own. And there are 15 fractions. So you drive with your car and you empty it in the containers, and it's great, so it's easy to empty into them. And white goods stored there, and also hazardous waste is collected in the house. So these are all the different ways of collecting the waste that we have. And the treatment are then in Malmö, which is 16 kilometers away. It's not very far. And there is a company called CISA, which is owned by Lund and some other municipalities in the region. So we have a regional solutions for the treatment. And today the food waste is collected in the municipalities and then transported to this facility, where the food waste is turned into a slurry. It's a liquid, brown liquid, very smelly, that we use to produce biogas. So you get biogas from this, and you also get fertilizer as a byproduct, you could call it. But we will also get the solid fraction is now turned into is incinerated. So we lose some nutrients there. So we will need to think of better ways to do that. And the residual waste is incinerated in this plant you see on the top picture. What we have learned so far is that turning the food waste into biogas, it's a very important story. It shows us the ways of the circular economy. And we use this biogas in the city buses. We use it also in the waste trucks that collects the waste. This has been an important story to tell the citizens. If you sort the waste good and right, you can then drive on this car, on this waste in the form of biogas. So it's good storytelling, I would say. It's very circular. People see the benefits, and you can use it in all sorts of discussions with the citizens. But it's also important that the biofertilizer, the byproduct from biogas production, we want to spread it on the farmlands, so to return the nutrients to the farms. And to do that, we need really good quality of the biofertilizer. Otherwise, they will not accept it, the farmers. So we have certification systems in place, certifying that it's of good quality. And if it's not good quality, it will not go to farmland. So it's of vital importance for the waste treatment operators that they get good quality. Otherwise, they will get stuck with tons and tons of biofertilizer that I cannot use. So we've worked a lot with the quality incentives and how to get good food waste in the collection. And it's even sold, so we get paid for the biofertilizer. So we get paid for the biogas, and we get paid for the fertilizer. So it improves the economy of the whole system. And so today, about 70-75% of the food waste is then collected separately. But more importantly, it's of very high purity. So sometimes even up to 99% purity of the food waste. And as I said, that is important for the story of the biogas and the fertilizer. And the collection, the waste is collected every second week for single households. From multi-family houses, it's every week. And from hotels and restaurants, it's 1 to 6 times per week, depending on the amount. So in total, 140 tons of food waste collected every week. And since we're also talking about organic waste in total, we have a separate system for park and garden waste, which is actually treated locally in the compost. And in total, we collect 1,100 tons per week. And that was my time, actually, my 15 minutes here today. So thank you very much for your attention. And I hope there will be some questions as well.
Hi, Markus. So thank you very much for the presentation. It was really interesting. So a pleasure to listen, Lund strategist. So in fact, we have 2 questions, but more or less you answered them with your slides and speech, but maybe you want to give some more detail on them. One is, how did you collect the garden waste that you just told it was separately? And also other question regarding the percentage of contamination in the food waste. So in case you want to give any more detail, feel free. If not, we just can follow with our webinar.
Well, yes, there are actually two things I could say. The park and garden waste is collected. Households that have collection of garden waste have a single bin, the standard single bin that are so common everywhere, plastic bins, and it's collected in a separate truck. Or you can leave it in the recycling station that I showed the aerial footage of. So you drive your car there and empty it yourself, unless you you compost it in your own garden. So that's the system we have for garden waste. And also one thing I forgot to say, we are today producing biogas, but there could be other products that are worth producing. So that is one of the reasons why we have joined the Scalable project, because there are other tests are made of what the food waste could be turned into. So that is exciting for us to participate in this project.
Okay, so thanks, Markus. Some other questions are coming, but we will have also time to solve these questions at the end of the webinar. We will have common discussions, so we will try to answer to all your questions. Now we move from the north of Europe in Lund to the south in Murcia, Spain. We have with us Manuel from Murcia City Council. He's industrial engineer and with a wide experience in waste management, and he will give us a speech on his case in Murcia. So, hi Manuel, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for the invitation to join this webinar, and I'm going to give you a brief presentation about Murcia, about circular economy in the city, and also I would like to mention some of the European projects that we are working on. So I've organized my presentation in 4 points. I'm going to try to fulfill all of the main topic that I've been invited, and also I only have 10 minutes, and the topic is quite extensive. So if you need any questions at the end of my presentation, you can have my mail, and I will be glad to share some to answer your question. So to start, I would like to mention some aspect about Murcia. Murcia is a city in the south of Spain, and we are around 4,600 inhabitants. And what is special about Murcia is that we have a huge geographical dispersion, because we have 900 square kilometers, and we are living only in city center, just 40% of the population, and the rest of the population, 60% of that, is living in the surrounding areas. I mean, a small town that are far away from the city center, and this is a challenge for the waste management. So, as a typical city of the south of Spain, we are enjoying 300 sunny days per year, but also we are facing a scarcity of water. We have a problem with the water, and for that reason, it's a precious resource for us. And since the 18th century, Muslims introduced some of the state-of-the-art instruments for that time in the field of water. You can see here in my presentation a wheel that is distributing water for irrigation in the orchard for farmers, and also you have here some canals that are used for irrigate. Well, so for that reason, I tell you that is one of the important water recovery is one of the important, is quite important for us, and I'm going to mention again because it's linking with several European projects that we are working on. So I'm going to speak now about circular economy in the city. What is quite important for us is that we are working really hard we are writing now our circular economy strategy. With this strategy, we are going to set several actions in different horizons. One is for 2023, another one 2025, and the last one for 2030. And we already done a diagnostic of circular economy. You can see here the link to where you can download the strategy, the diagnostic. And with this diagnostic, we have taken a photo of the situation of circular economy. in our city. And we have detected several actions, and it's like a start point in order to know how we are now. So, as I've said before, we are quite interested in water treatment and reuse this water. And as I said, it's a precious resource for Murcia, and we have a high rate of wastewater reuse. 11% of the water of the water that we have treatment in our waste treatment plant is reused directly for irrigation to sport facilities and in agricultural fields. But also the rest of the water, 89% of the wastewater is returned to the river and also used again as in agricultural fields. And we have, as I said, we have several European projects. You can see here some of that we are working on that: Value Waste, Hoop, City Loops, and Enrich. And I will be glad to explain all of them, but I don't have time. I'm going to focus later on Value Waste and Hoop. So, and in the last part of this point, I would like to mention some about waste management, but Pedro Gustavo later is going to explain this in detail. But here we have, in Murcia, we have 4 bins, one for paper, one for plastic, another one for glass, and the typical for mixed urban waste. But thanks for Value Waste, we have implemented in some areas of the city the 5th bin for organic waste. And also we have a special collection point, for example, for oils or batteries, etc. But Pedro Gustavo, he's working on CESPA. He is going to explain later in his presentation. So I don't want to spoil it. So finally, as I've said, in Murcia, we are working on several circular economy projects. And one of them is this one, Value Waste Project. Value Waste Project is a Horizon 2020 project, and we are testing 3 valorizing pilot of urban organic waste to obtain finally food, feed, and fertilizer. And with this project, we have several work packages, and one of them is about communication campaign. And later, I'm going to show you some pics about the visual material that we have been using. But one of the important questions that we have to answer is why a city as Murcia enroll in this kind of project? Well, finally, through this kind of project, a city as Murcia can have some benefits. For example, thanks to this project, we have held a citizen awareness campaign in order to raise awareness to separate organic fraction at home. Also, we upgrade the municipal treatment plant, and we want to reach the goal of 1,800 tons of organic waste to treat it. And here you have a list of benefits that we are obtaining with this project. So, as I said, I've done a strong campaign in Murcia City in order to raise awareness. And here you have some pics and some of the visual material. Also, we have had a bio patrol in the city to inform our citizens how to separate at home the organic waste, and trying to raise awareness, and also to give publicity to this project. Here you have some of the visual that we have been used. And I would like to mention another European project that we are working, and one of them is Hoop, and Hoop is one of the projects that is also financed by Horizon 2020. In this project, 8 cities are receiving support from the rest of the partners in order to develop circular bioeconomy initiatives to valorize organic fraction and wastewater sludge. We are receiving help from the other partners, technical partners, in technical aspects, economic and legal aspects. And we are going to develop finally one of the initiatives that we are going to detect. It's something that is quite important because we are, you know, that Murcia, I mean, finally the rest of cities in Europe, we are working hard in order to implement circular economy strategies, in order to follow European Green Deal and different movement. That is something that is mandatory one if we want to reach a neutral climate Europe by 2050. So the ambition of HUB and why, as I said, regarding value waste, why a city as Murcia is in value waste. Also, we ask the same question to why Murcia is in HUB. Well, as I've said, water is a well-precious resource in our region, and Murcia is considered or is known regarding water treatment like a leader. So we joined HUB to achieve a more circular of this resource. I mean, we want to make the most of our water. And in particular, it is our aim to obtain high-value products from urban wastewater sludge. And although we are now using that properly, I mean, we are using directly on the land or to produce compost, but also we are interested in fermentation of urban wastewater sludge and to produce volatile fatty acid. And the last point why Murcia is here is because we can act, I mean here, when I mean here, I want to say in HUB, is because we want to act as a demonstrator for other cities to share our experience in circular economy, to share how can we write a circular economy strategy, which problem we face, or how to implement selective collection, or regarding communication campaign, or also to give assistance to other, to apply to other European projects. So for that reason, we are also in HUB. And thank you for your attention. And here you have my details. And if you have any question, I will be glad to answer. And that's all. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Manuel, for your intervention. It's really nice to see that no matter where we are located, Sweden, Spain, we are working together to find better solutions for biowaste. Continuing with Murcia case in Spain, we jumped from the municipality to the waste manager responsible, which is Pedro Gustavo, working for Ferrovial. And I'm sure he will give more details in the technical aspects of the collection in Murcia. So Pedro, whenever you want, the floor is yours.
I'm trying to share my, okay.
Hi. We can't hear you properly, Pedro. Are you there?
Okay. Okay. My name is Pedro Gustavo Rodriguez. Can you listen to me?
Yeah, now it's perfect. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Pedro Gustavo Rodriguez, and I work in the company Murcia Ferrovial Servicios. We are the company that are offering cleaning and waste collection services in Murcia. Am I also responsible for the value waste project in Murcia? I'm going to speak about the rollout of Biowaste Bin, which started 1 year ago. And I'm going to start from the beginning to show you what we have done. We have different stages in our project. The first one is the design project, the communication and collection, and the end, the communication and collection. If you can see in this slide, the red line is the day when you locate the bins, when you start the collection system. We will enter more in detail in the next slides, but you can see there is a design stage, there is a communication stage. This is before the collection service starts, and after that there is the collection and communication for the rest of the period. Let's see more in detail what we have done from the beginning of this project. Okay, what we design is that we design a collection system for 3 different types of customers. The first one are the citizens. It's a La Flota neighborhood, 8,000 inhabitants. And we also wanted to know about the large producers. There's the restaurants, 170, with a door-to-door system, and the food markets, which have the same bin as a La Flota neighborhood. And we decided to show this program, with 2 parameters, this quantity and quality. We have to measure from the beginning using these parameters. Why? Quantity, because at this moment in Murcia, we are collecting on source around a bit less than 20%, and by the end of this year should be 50%. So we are far away from our objectives. Of course, bio-waste collection is not working in the municipality. So for us, it's a very important project to know how can we approach to these European targets. And the other, which is not in value waste, but for us it's very important, is quality. Why? Because a very high quality of the bio-waste is necessary to obtain a high quality products. We will explain later in detail. How did we start this project? So we started knowing which is the percentage of the organic waste that we have. It's around 41%. We started the project 1.5 years ago, measuring what amount of bio-waste is in the garbage, in the general garbage, and this is 41. We can see even the seasonality. Another question we started speaking about is about the characteristics of the area, which is the best container that can fit into this area. We decided with our customer, the municipality, that for aesthetic reasons, the container should be exactly the same type than the ones that there were in La Flota. And for the Horeca channel, we decided to start with 120 liters containers. When at the beginning we spoke with the responsibles for the Horeca, they said, okay, we want to participate in this project, nothing else. But when we went down really and we spoke to the managers of the restaurants, they decided that they didn't want this little bin, because the bin should be in its facilities, and they didn't want to have it. So at the end, they decided to have a container, a big container in the street, that it was only for the restaurants and with a key. This was a change in the project. For us, it was not very good at this point, because we expected a high quantity, high quality with the 120 liters and a door-to-door system, which we don't have right now. We cannot compare. Well, but we are in COVID times, and we have had really problems with the restaurant, with the Horeca channel, because we started the project in February, and 15 days later there was a lockdown in Spain, which finished by the end by summer. And we tried to put of course we have to remove the bins from the street, because the bars and the restaurant were closed. We tried to put them again, but there was no commitment at this time for the restaurants. So I spoke with the manager for Tenma, and we decided to take off these containers, and we stopped this part of the project. As I said before, quality is a very important parameter. Why? Because as you can see in the yellow line, all the waste we are collecting goes into digesters. The digester may present mechanical problems or even chemical problems, depending of the quality of the material, of the bio waste. And what happened then, if you want to fill it again, it can take 3 to 4 weeks to stop the whole project. So for us, it would be it is really important that the quality as a parameter. And we are really happy, because we know from other cities that 20 between in a range in 20 and even 40% in the brown bin is not required material. At this moment in Murcia, we have between 7 and 8%. So this is great, really, because the bin is in the street. We cannot control who is tipping the bio-waste. But I think that we started the project speaking only about quality, not quantity. And this has been successful, which has been a very important parameter to define the quality. It's the size of the lid. As you can see here, we have two different types of containers, one for large producers, which the size of the lid, of course, is bigger, and the citizens, which is smaller. Depending on where the bin is located and what are the business surrounded, we have decided to put one for large producers or for citizens. In the future, we have a new design for both of them, because if in one area there are large producers and citizens, of course, we have to put the large producer bin. But in the future, there will be a new bin, you can see on the right, that we have, when you open the lid, it's like the citizen lid. But if you insert a key that we can give the key to the large producers, it opens the big lid, and it's like the one on the left. So we may have with one container, with one bin, we have two different sizes of lid. And here on the right, you can see the amount of not required material. We are using standard procedures to analyze what is entering into our plant. And as I've said before, less than 8% of not required material, little pieces of paper, plastic, and glass. That's what we are obtaining right now. In a project like this, communication is really important. For me, it's the most important issue after designing, of course. At this moment, we are before the collection starts. Which are the guidelines for our communication plans? It's original actions. They might be very creative, and you have to think about a lot of the design. You must think about how to follow up these original actions. You must use the appropriate technology for intelligent information management. And which is also important, is there must be an interaction, direct and personal interaction with the customers. You must generate expectations before collection starts, before. It's very important. And it's also a good issue to speak about circular economy. It's time to speak about it. And during the communication process, be transparent. These are the key success factors to have a very good implementations. As you can see, we started with the politician engagements. This is before collection. It's communication to the media and communications from the major to the citizens. This is the start point. And after that, we go to the street. We start, in this La Flota, which is the place we are working right now. Every week we have a hazardous truck which collects hazardous waste from the citizens. So we start in 1 month before, telling to the citizen what's going to happen. So we started in that way. We have communications to the large producers, because we go from specific actions to general actions. The last one who has to be informed is the citizen, because the citizens goes to the hazardous waste truck before, because the citizens goes to a bar and he can see, a gift we gave a 10 liters bin container. He can ask, what's this about? We went to the schools, because one pupil can inform 3-4 person at his family. And we went to associations, because it was the beginning point. So we went from very specific communications to the general communication. General, I mean the citizens. So the general communication, we usually start 1 week before putting the containers on the street. Okay, once you have located all the bins they are in the street, the surprise has finished. And then after that, it started a new process, which is surveys. This is a very important issue for us. There are, as you can see here, almost 2,500 houses in La Flota, and 88% responded to the surveys. There was a service online and a service in the street. We were using tablets and we were introducing the data. And for us, it gave us a very important aspect of what people think about this new bin. As you can see, we are in the after the collection services start. And for me, it's very important, the green arrow. It means that you are in the street. Of course, we have 60 areas like this to implement in Murcia. We cannot spend a lot of time in one area because we have 1.5 years to roll out the bio-waste bin. So it's not a lot of time. So this arrow, this green arrow means how you use the information technology to go when you need it. Okay, you have finished the street, you have been speaking with the customers, but you need other resources to be there, but not physically. We're going to see it now. Okay. The use of technology allows us to go where the deviations are. We are using tags we can identify when we are lifting the bin. We are using weighting systems to know the weight of the bin when it's lifted. And we also have LEDs in the truck, which is collecting bio-waste, that we are informing about how is improving the collection system. On the right-hand side, you can see where the bins are located. The bigger the circle, it means that we have more bio-waste in this area. Of course, when you finish your general campaign in the area, you go the next week, but you go to the smallest circles. You don't go to the big ones. Why? So this is very important for us. We go where the problem is, where we don't have the right results. And as you can see, you can see at the bottom on the right, the monthly evolution of bio-waste collected. These are real numbers till the end of, from the beginning of the project, which is March 2020, till the end of April, which is, we have improved. As I said before, we started speaking about quality. And we have moved from 18 tons per month to 50 tons in 1 year. There has been only one change that we have implemented, that open market, which can bring us to 10 tons per month. If we take off these 10 tons, would be 40 tons. With the same bins, we have grow up from 18 tons per month to 40 tons per month. So why? How can we get this? Using technology, social networks, IoT, and listen to the customer. To sum up, I would like to summarize what we consider 5 steps, what I have spoken to. The first one is that you have, from the beginning, you have to consider the customer from the beginning of the project. And it's only one question: which are his or her insights? Why are you recycling and the person who is living in another flat is not recycling? Because bio-waste is very, very easy to know what's about. When you speak about bio-waste, it's very easy to identify bio-waste. So which are the insights of the person? Why you are recycling, why you are not recycling? The only way to know that is with direct communication with the customer. The second one is you have to establish parameters to monitor the project. We have established 2, quality and quantity. Start with quality, because if you are doing wrong from the beginning, you will not change. The third one is the information campaigns. They are very, very important. They have to be transparent, and you must give information. The citizen, the customer has to be informed. The fourth one is that you use technology to analyze deviation and optimize resources. And the fifth one is that you need to establish a protocol for the successful implementation of biowaste collection. As I said before, we have implemented one area. We have 68 more areas to implement. So there must be a clear procedure what to do in every stage of the project and in every area. If you have clear this, you can optimize resources. Otherwise, it will be a mess. And that's all for me. If you have any questions?
Pedro, thank you very much. It has been really nice to first have the overview from Manuel on Murcia and in general, and then yours specifically on your work on value waste and really the technical terms in your work in the waste management. I have a question for Pedro. And so the question makes reference to the quality material. So if you really use or have other criteria to quantify or the quality of the waste.
The quality we are informed by our drivers because we have a camera inside the hopper of the truck. And if they see that some plastic, some cardboard is entering into the hood, they send us a message. This is one step. This is very useful for the biopatrols. And the second way we have to measure the quality is that we were measuring the qualities for 2 months last summer, and what we were doing is we separate in that way. We put all the bio waste on the floor. We separate in 4 parts. Then we take 2 of these 2 parts. We mix it again, and we take another 2 parts, and we separate what is required material, what is not required material. This is a procedure which uses EcoEmbes here in Spain, and it's important for us to use this procedure. That's what we are doing. We have information for our drivers first, and second one, we have a final result that we can measure. Quality, as I said, is very important. It's the most important issue, because if you have a 25–30% of not required material in the brown bio waste bin, why do you need this bin? This is the question.
Okay, well, are some other questions coming up? In fact, the one that just made this question would like to rephrase this question a bit. And the question better would be if the heterogeneity of the material affects the application that you are considering, which I guess that for sure. I'm not, so would you like to add something on this? Yep.
That's what we are studying right now. There are 2 questions. From a mechanical point of view, if you introduce little pieces of glass, plastic, etc., of course it affects the digester. So try not to. I mean, after the collection, it's 7–8% of not required materials. This enters into a trommel, and the final product is 1–2%. So we have another improvement in that way. But of course, that's what we are studying right now. In what way the quality of the material is affecting the other processes.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will invite you all the speakers maybe to switch your camera on now, and maybe based on the questions that have been raised up during the webinar, we can just have a common discussion on main topics. Well, I'll try to order a bit all these questions, and maybe let's start from. So I would say there are two main aspects, one regarding the collection specifically, and some other questions related to what happened afterwards, after this collection. So let's start from the beginning. There are questions related to to HoReCa collection. in terms of devolution and return of organic waste or pay-as-you-throw systems. So which would be the position of maybe your municipalities of this kind of techniques in the collection waste? Maybe, I don't know, Markus, for example, in Lund, how HoReCa sector is addressed in terms of collecting their bio-waste?
Well, it's we collect it in a similar fashion to food waste in households, but they have restaurants have bins, so they can order different sizes, and they pay according to the size of the bin, and also the how often it's emptied. So if you want it emptied every day, it's more expensive if you want it emptied once a week. So that is how we do it. So they have their own bin, which they pay for.
Okay, and in Murcia, I know that Pedro, you mentioned also like the picking up on the HoReCa. How this would be addressed from in Murcia, for example?
HoReCa produces the highest quantity and quality of bio-waste. This has to be clear. Unfortunately, we don't have experiences with the bars, restaurants, as I said before, but we've got one open market, and I tell you that we can get 3 tons of 100% purity of bio-waste in 3 hours. This we can make the same amount of bio-waste in 10 hours collecting for citizens, and of course it's not as high quality. So it's a very important strategy to go for the HoReCa. It's the most important. If you want to get quantity and quality, go for the HoReCa channel. This is my advice.
Okay, nice, thank you. There's also another interesting question, and really so in really a topic which is in the spotlight. The question is regarding the COVID impact in the collection, sorting, and quality of the bio-waste. So I don't know if you maybe could share with us the experiences in quality and quantity of this bio-waste collected both in maybe Lund and Murcia during this last year, 2 years.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Well, people stay at home and don't go to restaurants. So actually the amount has dropped and nobody stays at hotels. So the total amount of food waste has decreased, but it has shifted from the city centers out down onto the residential areas. That's our experience. Yeah.
Okay. And well, I know that you, Pedro, for example, mentioned that the bins from the restaurants were removed due to this COVID lockdown in February, if I'm not wrong. So is this plan to be reintroduced, and how do you think we can face this crisis?
Should be reintroduced, but we decided to change these bins to the scholar canteens, so we don't have more bins. I'm afraid we cannot. We are not going to implement the HoReCa channel for bars and restaurants. So we don't have information we can offer in that way. We only have open markets, which have, as I said before, we are having very good results and high quality, high quantity.
Okay. So thank you for that. Maybe we can also move now from all these collection strategies to what happened afterwards. There were several questions regarding, for example, I think these questions were raised up when Markus was speaking. So what's your approach on biofertilizers? So how do you produce them, or what happened with this?
Yes. The biofertilizer is a way of branding the digestate. So it's actually the rest products from biogas production. The digestate, or what we usually call it, sludge. But sludge is not an attractive product. You don't get paid to sell sludge. So it's rebranded into biofertilizer. So it's actually playing with the words, but it does work. It gives it a higher value, and especially when we now also have the system, what do you call it, certification system, that it's pure. If you know the biogas process, you put in the waste, it stays in a container for 30 days, it's mixed, and then after 30 days it's more or less emptied. So the retention time is 30 days. And then the carbon material is degraded. And what you get is a slurry with high concentrates of nutrients. And this is then sold to the farmers. So that's how we do. We do not burn the digestate as someone implemented in the question. It is spread on the farmland, so the nutrients are utilized. Yeah. We do, however, burn the solid fraction of the food waste. So we too have things to work on to improve.
So thank you very much, Markus. In fact, you also answered the next question I was going to raise regarding this biogas process. I would also like to remind you all that in future webinar in this series, there will be detailed webinar on valorization in biowaste and also in water sludge. So I'm sure that in that webinar, there will be like specific techniques and technologies in this valorization of biowaste. As today we've just focused on the collection and waste management strategies. So maybe to close this discussion and this webinar, I would maybe invite the speakers today, I don't know, if you can tell us which is your ambition for biowaste in the short or long term, or which is what you really expect from your cities to become regarding biowaste in the next years.
Well, for us, our objective is to engage more citizens in our project. As I said before, we started with 18 tons per month. We are now in 50 tons per month, and our objective is 70 tons per month. Let's see how we can do it.
Okay. Markus, you have maybe something to share in relating to that?
No, well, yes, but something totally different. We are now looking into how to get negative carbon emissions, as I told in the beginning of my presentation. And to do that, we are utilizing the solid fraction of the organic waste with pyrolysis to turn it into biochar. Then you get a solid residue, which is pure, more or less pure carbon, which can be used as a soil conditioner to improve the soil fertility. And by doing that, you're also locking carbon. You take carbon from the atmosphere and put it into the soil, thereby getting negative emissions, which will help us to reach the net zero carbon emissions. So that is what we are looking into at the moment. Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, Markus. I was seeing also there are some other questions that well, maybe we didn't have time to answer. We'll try to maybe reach them after this webinar in case we can be of help with some of your ideas or your doubts. So with this, we close this discussion, and with this first webinar in biowaste collection. We will have in the next weeks many other to close all these stakeholders in the value chain of biowaste. And I would like to give the speak to James to close this webinar, which will give a bit more information on this, and we'll close today's webinar. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
James, the floor is yours now to close
Thank
this.
you.
Thanks very much, Miguel Ángel, and thank you to all of the speakers. That was extremely interesting and really valuable discussion. So from our side, we really hope this webinar was the start of the conversation with all of you attendees and visitors. So we really think these projects have a lot of expertise and knowledge to share, and so please get in contact with us if you have further questions or want to find out more. Make sure to give the projects a follow on their social media and newsletters, etc. Also, we have quite a lot more activities coming up to share this knowledge and experiences. So one of those I wanted to flag is the HOOP network of cities and regions, which we're just in the process of launching. So this network is, the main objective of that is to facilitate this exchange of knowledge, especially among cities and regions on the topic of urban bioeconomy. So it's open to organizations that plan, organize or operate municipal waste management or wastewater treatment. So for that, you can find out more on the HOOP website. We'll add the link in the chat now. And finally, just to say, hopefully you'll join us again in the coming weeks. As we've said, there's more webinars coming your way on lots of really interesting topics. The next one is in 2 weeks' time on stakeholder engagement and citizen awareness. That's led by our brilliant colleagues at the CSCP, so it's going to be a good one. So again, if you're not already registered, then make sure to get yourself registered via the event website. We'll put that in the chat as well. So a final thank you to everybody, all speakers, all attendees. Thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully see you next time. Bye-bye.